Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is sponsored and anonymous to dedicate loving memory of Nishmat Esther Bat Haim Yosef Vefega. Also dedicated in honor of Lorraine and Amin Ajmi for the birth of their daughter, Alice Ajmi. By the way, the Kililili is extra. The Ajmi family is wishing you only the very best. Mazal Tov Mabruk. Breakfast in the Class sponsored by Simon Abraham, dedicated in honor of his cousin and best friend Simon Nissim, whose son Yitzi got married this past Tuesday evening. Breakfast in the Class also dedicated for a speedy and complete refuah shema of Nisim Ben Salcha. Please make brachot for his refuah. And finally, dedicated love memory Nishmat Ibrahim Ben Yeskel Bezolecha for his askara, sponsored by Judy and Maurice Chosh. Of course, the learning for this week is dedicated by Torah Center Gold donors, the Aronal family, in love memory Nishmat Yosef Mordechai Ben Yisrael Haim V'Hana Joe Aronal, whose Arayat is today. Mincha is going to be at 5:15, and then after speeches afterwards, as well. Refuah Shlema for Chana Bat Simafega, continued health, and as well complete Refuah Shlema for Eliyahu Shmuel Fortuna and Chana Chaim Rafael Ben Frida. Rabotai, we'd like to wish a Mabruk and a Mazal Tov to none other than the wonderful, the great, the inimitable Rabbi Lawrence Hagioff on the marriage of his daughter today. Mazal Tov and Mabruk, congratulations. And as well to the Kleinman family for this magnificent wedding. Be'ezat Hashem b'sha'ah tova u'mutzlahat. Let's begin. We have a beautiful pasuk in Tehillim where we talk about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who sustains with his kindness and with his goodness Betzeh kinim ad le karnei re'emim. What is Betzeh kinim? Lice eggs. The larva of lice. God gives the larva of lice something to munch on so they could exist. God gives karnei re'emim, which means the horn of re'emim, of a dinosaur. We translate re'emim to be a dinosaur. Gemara actually mentions that David HaMelech was once atop a re'em. He thought he was on a mountain, a hill. All of a sudden the hill started moving. He realized he was not on a hill. He realized he was not on a hill because he did not have a drug problem. So if he's on a hill and it's moving, it's probably a very large animal. Okay? Now people struggle to believe that Judaism could believe in dinosaurs. But there's no reason why we have any trouble believing in dinosaurs. Maybe we don't believe that the world is 50 billion years old. Or maybe we do. That could also fit with Jewish ideology. We're not necessarily locked into one or the other. Whatever it is, it is. It doesn't really bother me. All I know is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. How he created the world, no one will ever understand other than God. I mean, we can talk about methodologies and approaches, Hiyuli, Ramban, understandings of the days, how long are the days, all those things. But at the end of the day, we don't understand. We know Hashem created, and even if you believe in some form of evolution, HaKadosh Baruch Hu guided that evolution. So what difference does it make how God created the world? All I need to know is that He created the world. But God created Betzeh kinim, and He sustains the tiniest. It's the egg of a lice. He sustains the largest animals. I don't know if you've ever seen the images where they show you how big the blue whale is. Blue whale, if I'm not mistaken, is the size of 11 elephants. You know, tail to trunk, standing in a row. The Leviathan, far bigger than that. Okay, and as we know now, there are creatures of the deepest part of the ocean that we do not have machines, we do not have submarines that can withstand the ocean's pressure, the oceanic pressure of such depths. In fact, what people don't understand is the Tehom Rabbah that the Torah talks about, the great depths that the Torah talks about. The deepest part of the ocean is far deeper than the highest point of the highest mountain. Google Mariana Trench and Mount Everest. If you took Mount Everest and you turned it upside down and you stuck it in the Mariana Trench, it's minuscule compared to the depth of the Mariana Trench. Now, just so we understand what that means, there are animals that are called bottom dwellers. Every once in a while, we find a species that we never even knew existed. Right? The other day, an oarfish wound up washed up on the beach. I don't know if you've ever seen an oarfish. Anyone know what an oarfish is? Oarfish looks like a parasitic tapeworm mated with an eel. The love child, are you Googling an oarfish? Or Mount Everest and...
So I Googled it.
Huh? You're non-stop Googling. I feel like Donald Trump during the debates.
30 elephants, by the way.
30 elephants, there we go. So I undersold the blue whale, all right? Joe says it's a third, the Mariana Trench. Did you Google it if that's correct? I don't know if that's... Oh, you're only Googling me. All right, no problem. Okay. I feel like Trump during the debates. You're only fact-checking me. Okay. My friends, you like the political commentary on the side. Okay, fine. I just want to share why I'm sharing this with you. This oarfish, okay, it's only found, it's not something you ever get the chance to see. It's washing up on beaches because of various elements that are happening to the climate over time, okay? But what that means is that there's species that we have to praise God about that we have never seen. Not only that we didn't get a special on National Geographic about, okay? But God sustains them all. Let's go to the furthest reaches of space. Today we know with the new telescope, we have the opportunity to look at universes. Again, I'm not using words lightly here. Not planets, not stars, universes potentially. Entire galaxies that we did not know existed. In each of those galaxies, there are more stars and planets than we have in, not only in our solar system, but in the Milky Way. Okay? Talking about trillions of stars. Understand that what we now know is that there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. Each grain of sand put out there, suspended in the middle of nowhere, is an entire planet with an ecosystem, with whatever it's got going on over there. Each one, with gravitational pull, with solar rotations, with numerous solar rotations. We have only one sun in our system, in our solar system. Many other places have numerous suns rotating. It's unbelievable. The furthest, vastest outreaches of space, millions of light years away from here. And then, instead of using the new telescope, right, that we have to be able to see so far and see so big, you look so small. You take a microscope. There are bugs that at magnification of 27 million times the size of a grain of barley. Usually when we talk about a grain of barley, it's like the smallest size. 27 million times magnification. They found the bug, and on the bug has 24 legs. If the bug has 24 legs, it probably has some form of a digestive system. Understand how small you're talking. Betzekinim, karnere emim doesn't really cut it. And all of that was created, as our Chachamim explained to us, with the letters of the Aleph Bet. How many letters are there in the Aleph Bet? 22 letters. When God chose the person who was going to build the Mishkan, which is our Parashat of Terumah, God chose a very specific person. He chose a man whose name is Bezalel. And what does it say about Bezalel? That Bezalel was chosen to build the Mishkan because he knew tzirufei otiyot, he knew the combination combinations of letters that a person would put together, that God used to put together to be able to build and to create the world. That's who B'Tzalel is. Okay? The names of God arranged in various ways. Like we know, Sha'amar le'olamo dai, the name Shakai was a name that God used in building the world. We know that God uses the letter Yud and the letter Hey in creating the world. Right? The Gemara says that the letter Yud and Hey, like it says, Ki biyah Adonai tzur olamim. In the name Yah, Hashem used to create tzur olamim, the worlds. Ask the Gemara, how do I know which one he used if the letters of the word Yah, Yud and Hey? Which letter did he use for the Shamayim, for the heavens? And what did he use for the earth? What was physical and what was spiritual? Havi Omer, look at the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Ele todot Shamayim va'aretz behi bare'am. Al tikre behi bare'am, ela behi bera'am. So God created our world with the letter Hey. So you see that there's letters, and there's names of God, and there's combinations. Says the Ben Ish Chai something unbelievable. So you have the macro of creation, the vast expanses of space. You have the micro of creation, tiniest little structure of a living being, right? You have even smaller than that, some form of an organism. There's the most resilient. Google this. You can check it out. The most resilient, indestructible creature in the entirety of creation. Did you Google it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, most resilient, indestructible creature in all creation. Anyone know other than Google? I believe it's a tetrograde. Tardigrade, maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. This thing is frozen in solid ice from the Ice Age. And when the Ice Age structures, glaciers, were melting, they were finding these tardigrades, I don't know how to pronounce it, that were coming back to life after having been frozen solid. This is what Walt Disney is hoping for. But the point is, coming alive, they could survive a nuclear blast. You could burn them in a fire, no problem. Unbelievable. So we're trying to understand the crazy breadth. If you ever want to understand the universe in this way, the best rabbi ever, Victor Miller. He would talk about these ideas. Barry Kaplan was more from a scientific perspective. Rav Victor Miller was more from a gratitude and awe perspective. Okay? Now take a look at this, because this to me is everything. Says the Ben Ish Chai, the macro and the micro. If the letters of the Aleph Bet are what's used, he says, what's the smallest letter of the Aleph Bet? Yud. Where do we learn this from? I've mentioned this many times before. Hilchot Shabbat. In the Isur of Ktiva, of writing a letter, when a person makes one mark on a paper, that's already considered Yud. Because the ot of Yud is a Mashahu, right? So the smallest of the letters is Yud. What's the tallest of the letters? Lamed. Says the Ben Ish Chai, Lamed represents the macro of God's creation. Okay? Yud represents the micro. If B'Tzalel was chosen because the Mikdash was to be a microcosm of the universe, then we understand why it needed to be B'Tzalel. We also understand why the Pasuk begins by saying the words, Daber b'nei Israel, v'ikhu li teruma, lamed yud. Kili kol haaretz. Beautiful. The biggest to the smallest. Al Chachamim explained to us that was really the purpose of the Beit HaMikdash, of the Mishkan. Its purpose was to be able to feed, to sustain and bring shefa to the entirety of the universe. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not building the Beit HaMikdash with my hands. I don't know if anyone has a project like that going on in their basement. For years I've thought I should really just buy tons of industrial-sized 3D printers. Just feed the Torah, all the Mefarshim into AI, and tell the AI to scan it and build me a Aron according to all opinions. By the way, I am a Looney Tune. I know that about myself. But could you imagine? Mashiach comes like, let's build the Beit HaMikdash. I'm like, psst, gotcha. Come, Area 51 over here. Shuf. 900 Arons, according to the Ramban, according to the Ritva. All done. Ready? No problem. Shulchan, no problem. Room number 2, according to all the opinions. There you go. Built. Ready. Some people, that's how they build the Beit HaMikdash. The Temple Institute in Israel decided, you know what, we need to have the Hatzotzrot. They need to be ready. You know, they built them already out of gold. They're waiting. Everybody waits for Mashiach and prepares for Mashiach in their own way. Shtabach Shemo. Everyone has the right intentions. Even if maybe they're not 100%, they didn't have it right, they do have it right. They're trouble. Shem Shamayim. But my friends, every one of us is building the Beit HaMikdash with our actions. And because you and I are builders of the Bayit Shelishi, of the third Beit HaMikdash, with our actions, with our mitzvot, and also destroying it with our averot, building it with unity, building it with the mitzvot that we do, as we know, the Midrash tells us, that each mitzvah is a brick in the third Beit HaMikdash, that we're preparing the Beit HaMikdash Shel Ma'ala, okay? Then I think, if we're going to be the people that are building, maybe we need to pay a little bit more attention to the words of the Ben Ish Chai. That in building, there needs to be macro and micro. And this lesson is unbelievable, because I think it pays dividends on multiple strata. On the first strata, our mitzvot that we are doing occupy simultaneously 2 layers and 2 levels. One type of a mitzvah that a person does is macro, and one type of a mitzvah that a person does is micro. And let me give you an example of the macro-micro phenomenon. I have people that come to me and they say, Rabbi, I want to give tzedakah. But tell me, do you know any specific cases where you know the almanah personally, that you're willing or you'd like to have, I want to give money direct to the coalface? Do you know somebody, a yatom, that you could give him a card, he could go shopping in the grocery store? Beautiful, lovely, micro. But my friends, what people sometimes don't understand is that you also need a macro vision. Shlomo Farhi, I mean, with all the knowledge in the world, I don't necessarily have the wherewithal and the resources to be able to smoke out all the people that need this help. I need to have a storefront. I need to have an advertising campaign. I need to make a dinner that says, Keren Yetomim Ve'almanot, so that, not just that I raise money, but that Yetomim and Almanot know to come to see me. People don't understand that sometimes what the person needs is not a credit card. That's not what they need. And they don't need a thing in the grocery store. They have food. You know what they don't have? Medicine. They don't have a way to get to school in the morning. So when you're dealing with things on a micro level, there's a benefit to the macro. And sometimes people, I don't want to give the money to an organization. It gets lost. Yeah, they keep going to pay salaries. Salaries for who? If the guy's salary is, $10 million, fine. But if the guy's salary is $750,000, big salary, $1 million, but the guy's raising $50 million for a Yetomim and Almanot, you tell me in your business that you would not hire that guy. How come for yourself you would hire the guy? Because you're 49 million in the plus, but you won't do it for tzedakah? We don't understand that there are times that macro pays more dividends for the tzedakah. What, in everything else, we need to hire for only physical things. We should hire people that are qualified, who deserve a very large salary because they actually could take those skills and move into a Fortune 500 company. They could do that, but they're using it instead for a school or for a yeshiva. No. Anyone involved in a yeshiva can't make money. Are you Majnun? So let's get a fifth tier guy who's going to go around saying, "I really need money for the for the dinner. Please, can you send us?" That's the guy you need. That's micro vision. That's a guy thinking like a yud. On the other hand, sometimes you need to think like a yud. Some people are only doing macro-sized mitzvot. Only thinking about name on the building. But they're not thinking about the little person who's coming, who doesn't have access to whatever. They're not thinking about the fact that they walk around all day without a smile on their face. So tefillin, big mitzvah, amazing. They're perfect. Shmirat Shabbat, awesome. But heve mikabel et kol ha'adam besever panim yafot, they're growling and grouchy to everyone they meet. Small item. You know what the difference is? From here to here. Amazing. You know what I used to say? If a person wants long relationships, they want to have long and fruitful relationships. They don't want short relationships. Some people have short relationships. They're friends with people for 2 weeks. They date someone for a month. You know? They get along with their kids until the kid's 7. Right? You want long relationships or short relationships? Anyone here? Long relationships. Well, let me give you the secret to have short relationships. There's a famous adage that says, the shortest distance between 2 points if you want a short relationship, this sure is a straight line. Smile, you widened, smiled, now you have long relationships. It's a small thing, but it's a game changer. What the Ben Ish Chai is teaching you is, in Avodat Hashem, in building a space for God in this world, you need to have a focus on the micro and the macro. Now you have people that are only focusing on the small things, only focusing on the big things. Impossible. The second thing I wanted to share, the second layer, and with this we'll end, is not only the small versus the big tzedakah, the small versus the big mitzvah, but rather, I think what the Ben Ish Chai is communicating more than anything else is a very famous idea that Chazal tell us in Masechet Avot. Heve zahir b'mitzvah kala, kibba hamura. Be careful with a small mitzvah, a light mitzvah. Kibba hamura, like you are with the strict one. What's the end of that Mishnah? Nope. I mean, maybe that's the after it, but not the next line. Shi'i ata yodeya matan sechara. Careful with the small one, not just like the big one. Why? Because you don't know its reward. What's the Mishnah communicating? Are you so sure that this is a small one and that that's a big one? Okay, let me give you an example of what the Mishnah means. Small example. We talked about this idea of smiling. Small thing, right? It's a Mishnah in Avot. Maybe it's for nice people. Maybe it's for big tzaddikim. But if you look in the Torah, you'll see something very powerful. If you look in our Chachamim, you'll see that the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash happens Tahat asher lo avadeta et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha u'b'tuv levav. Now let's just analyze. And this is what the Gemara says on this pasuk. Does it say that they weren't doing the mitzvot? No. Let's look at it. Why is all this happening? Matzoru matzok, the destruction, the famine, the killing. Why is it happening? Because you did not serve your God b'simcha, with joy, b'tuv levav, and with a good heart. It means that you were serving God, just with not joy and with a not good heart, with misery, with sadness. Okay, good Rabbi, this is the minyan is taking forever. Simcha b'tuv levav, it's missing. So I'd like to ask you, maybe we're seeing now in this pasuk, careful with the mitzvah kala. Kiba chamura. You know why? Yata yodea matan sechara. You don't know the dividends that simcha pays. Hen letav, hen lemutav, in either direction. Both in terms of the reward you get and in terms of the punishment we sustain when we don't have it. So what's a person supposed to do? What do you want me to do? Be perfect? I can't miss the big ones. I can't miss the small ones. Was everyone like the chief rabbi? So I think the answer is also hidden in the beginning of this parasha. Because really, as we know, the building of the space of Kedusha in this world, called a Mishkan, called a beta Mikdash, is really actually something which is described as a Jewish home. It's something which is described as a Bet Knesset. Bet Knesset is called Mikdash Me'at, a small Bet HaMikdash. A Jewish home is today's version of the holiest place on earth. Okay? En la kadosh baruch hu be'olamo ela dal ramot shel halacha bilvad. A place where someone is learning Torah is like HaKadosh Baruch Hu's place in this world. A Jewish heart is God's place in this world. So take a look at what it says when you're building the Bet HaMikdash. You could bring gold, you could bring silver, you could bring copper, you could bring wood, you could bring spices, you could bring oil, you could bring diamonds. Nothing that anybody gave was any better or worse than what anybody else gave. So long as it was kol asher yidvenu libo, where the person gave with all of his heart. At the end of the day, even a guy whose doctor says you need to exercise or you're going to die, guy gets shaken up. Immediately, he goes and signs up at the local gym. Unbelievable. Gets himself 2 personal trainers. Erev avoker, chol yom tamid. Pa'amayim ba'ava, this guy. Trying to lift the weights. Shema! Shema omrim. Even that guy starts somewhere. Nachon? He starts somewhere. He don't start with the 900 pounds on the bar, crush himself to death. So what does he do? He doesn't start incline with the machine set at 50 miles an hour. He'll fall off, unceremoniously dumped at the end of the treadmill. Guy's not Lance Armstronging the Peloton. What's he doing? Slow. And you know what's interesting? There will be a point where the trainer will say to him, not yet. I know you want to do it. I know you feel driven to do it. I know you feel the urgency to do it. But not yet. My friends, that's what I always tell people that are growing. You go to the gym, you build yourself a workout program. Planning, failure to plan, they say, is planning to fail. So if you have a business outline and you've planned it, if your studies in college, you have an outline. If everything else in your life you have a plan for, don't you think that when it comes to your growth in Yahadut, it should be the same? What do I have time for? What do I have the uwe for? How many classes can I go to before I get Majnun? Sometimes the biggest mitzvah you could do is leave shul early. Guy hasn't been to shul in 30 years. Now he's in shul, he's getting antsy. It was really nice up until that point. Now he's getting antsy. Leave. Leave. You know what? Your 45 minutes today is a 10,000% increase on what you've been doing. Leave. So that you come back tomorrow. Asher yidvenu libo. If you want to do the biggest things, if you want to focus on the big, on the small, fantastic. But how much big? How much small? How much today? How much next week? How much next year? In football, basketball, hockey, and baseball, they all say one of the most dangerous things that a team could do is peak too early. Talk to the Knicks about that. Talk to the Rangers about that. Talk to the Yankees about that. You don't have to have a conversation with the Giants about that. They don't know about peaks. They only know about the Mariana Trench. Hashem should bless us that we should be zochet to this midah of yidvenu libo. And when we give small, spices, oil, and then we give more, and then we give more, but we never take our eyes off of the prize of karnere emim. We never take our eyes off the prize of the lamed, even as we're making the very small yuds. We never underestimate the yuds and realize that, you know something, if you take a look at a lamed, right at the tippy top of its very long neck, what do you see? A yud. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Chananya ben Akasha omer, Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu